Hello everybody, and welcome to Development Hell number 9, Diablo Immortal UI Play and Controls Overview. I am Dredscythe, and I'll be leading you through this multi-part Diablo Immortal Technical Alpha impressions and feedback series regarding our just recently ended play of the Immortal Technical Alpha. Now, this is a multi-part series because there's a lot to work through, so it had to be split up into at least a few videos. We'll try to do my best, try to limit this to general impressions, because if you're a fan or looking forward to Immortal, probably we're catching a lot of the Diablo 3 community streams, probably watching a lot of YouTube videos, getting a lot of feedback. So I'm not going to really explain the systems as much as giving my general feedback, impressions, where things really excelled, where I think some things, not too many, faltered, and maybe give a few quick ideas here and there. Trying to really make sure these videos are short, to the point, and do something I generally don't do, make short videos instead of long ones. So with that, we're just going to get directly into the video and the impressions. So I'm going to start with just basically one big overall general feeling of my play of the Technical Alpha, which was there were, I think, two benchmarks that Immortal had to meet. One of them was Diablo Immortal going to be a good game, a good Diablo game? And the other benchmark, which maybe we didn't think about, it was a little bit invisible, but was it going to be a good game, period, despite it being on a mobile platform? And I think in both cases, was it a good Diablo game, and was it a good game regardless of its platform? I think the developers tried, they put their effort in, and they succeeded in both. The game really does feel like a true Diablo game, a true Diablo experience, and is a unique entry, just like the other Diablo games in the Diablo franchise itself. And I also feel that it is a true game to itself. It's not just a port or some kind of barely there reimagining for the mobile platform. It is a true game in itself. Just the leveling experience takes a couple of days. That's nothing compared to what we do in Diablo 3 when the new season starts, where we try to get it down to like under 2 hours, under an hour at this point in its life cycle. So in both of those benchmarks, it succeeds greatly at being a great Diablo experience, and succeeds greatly at being just a good game, regardless of its platform. So I want to start with that general feeling, get that out of the way. And I feel even more confident in the developers because we only got up to level 45. The level cap is really 60. There's more zones, which means that there's more activities. There's more things like bounties. There's more things like dungeons and layers. Hopefully more tile sets for said activities, as well as there's more skills that we don't know about for each class, as well as new legendary items to support those skills as well. So with all said and done, I really feel like they pulled off a miracle. They pulled off extreme, well-executed goal and vision. However you want to put it, the development team really did pull something off here. This is a real special game, and if you still have any kind of prejudice against it, when you can, put it aside, give it a try, see if you like it when it eventually does come out. Whenever that is, we don't know yet, or at least as of me recording this video. So with those general feelings out of the way, I'm going to hop into the UI for a little bit. Now, the UI, when we reflect back on Diablo being a PC game, and it came out for the PlayStation and the Xbox, and then the Switch, and now for the mobile platform, developers have really taken their time to really go through and make sure that the menus and how you do things are really set up the best for its platform. it may look weird from us PC people looking at, say, a console menu setup, but it's what needs to be done for the platform to actually work and function in the best, easiest way. So looking at how they set up the menus, the UI, making sure it's clear, making sure that there's as little redundancy in the menus, there's as little dumpster diving in the menus as possible. I say they did a solid 9 out of 10. I mean, it's really well done. It's really well laid out. Most of the time, I think some of the issues I had was because I have an OtterBox around my iPhone 10. So when you're trying to, for instance, go in the top left corner to actually hit the menu button, or when you're over in the bottom corner to hit your lowest skill, you can run into a little bit of issues as far as aiming that bottom left skill, especially if it's a channel skill, or when you're trying to click that menu, it could be a little tough. You have to go a little bit over. However, I will reiterate, that's because of my OtterBox, not because of the game. So maybe making those buttons a little bit bigger, maybe moving the skills a little higher would kind of avoid that potential deal. Because again, we're on the mobile platform, it's a heck of a lot different, thinking outside the box of what can impact your play or just interacting with menus. Other than that, it would be nice for said skills, the 4 skills and your primary, if they had took what's there and made that like a base option, and then they had another option where for us fat finger people, if they could push out the 4 secondary skills, so there's a little bit more space. That's why you feel a little bit more confident when you're going for one skill or another. You know you're going to hit it, because there was multiple times where the top 2 skills on that radial arc that I would hit one instead of the other, and it's hard to say if it's the game's fault, my fault, learning curve or anything, but it would just be nice if that option was there. As well, similarly, where the ultimate button is and where the potion button are, it would be nice if there was a couple of default locations on that radial to where you can kind of mix and match and say move the potion from all the way at the top to maybe more in the middle, all the way at the bottom, move the ultimate button maybe all the way to the top where you feel comfortable, just for ultimate customizability. Maybe you have trouble moving your thumb one way or another, because again, we're not talking about a mouse and keyboard setup, we're not talking about a controller setup. Your fingers and how good or bad they work at your age, and my birthday is tomorrow. As of recording this, we're not getting any younger, and our hands may not work as well as they once did. So having the option to move those button layouts, if possible, it would be a great thing to have. And that's basically it. There were a few things that were pointed out by the community, and I agree with them. Like when you swap a piece of primary gear that has a legendary gem, having that legendary swap along with the gear's upgraded ranks when you swap one for another at the prompt. That's a very minor thing, but it avoids constant trips to the jewel crafter. This is something that we all put out there, along with making where the rewards are coming from for the challenge rifts. Maybe instead of having that essentially timeline where you see all the chests that you click on and you get your reward that way, maybe moving it to the area below where you check your leaderboard rank, where you check the global leaderboard on the left side of that menu for the challenge rifts, or where you would check your individual class rankings. That area on the left, that unless there's something reserved for that area, would be a perfect spot for you to do your challenge rift. And then once you clear it on the left hand side, you see, okay, there's a big check mark on the chest. You click the chest, boom, you're there. You don't have to go 1 or 2 more menu dumpster dives, quote unquote, to get your reward. And then lastly, I'll mention it here, is making the Charm Crafter menu setup act a lot more like the Gem Crafter menu setup, because with the Gem Crafter you can see regular gems and legendary gems that are on your character, that are in your character's stash, or in your for lack of a better term, shared stash, and you can replace, remove in between all of the menu. It's not like that for the Charm Crafter, and it'll be a lot better if you could, as well as the materials and such like that. But other than those, I say relatively small points and accessibility points, especially when it comes to the skill movement and giving a little bit more space. Again, fat finger syndrome. The UI is really fleshed out. It's really good. It's really well thought out, and I don't really have any real issues with it. I mean, even going down to the whole minimap and navigation, the teleport navigate function, auto navigate I should say, it's all great. It all really works. I was really nervous about the auto navigate, getting hung up on mobs along the way, getting hung up on geometry. How was this really going to work in an infinitesimal amount of situations? And it worked. I never got hung up. I never got stopped. I never got, diverted off course magically, halfway through going from location A to B. It just worked, which is a miracle in itself. So, really top job on the UI and all the other little elements. The little things I picked out would just make things better, but would still function from a day in, day out situation with the game. So from there, we're going to move from the UI to the play and controls. Now I mentioned before, because of my OtterBox, that sometimes I had issues with the last button, especially if it was a channeling skill. That being, since I played the wizard exclusively for the tech alpha, because I didn't know how long it was going to take to do things, I really want to make sure I could experience as much of the game as possible. Whenever I used Disintegrate or Ray of Frost, I almost had to make sure I didn't put it on last button to make sure I had could aim, turn, and had the ultimate customizability with the way I wanted to play. I never did test by taking off my OtterBox, because I wanted to keep it a real world situation. I would never go through the process of taking an OtterBox off just to play for 5 minutes just to put the OtterBox back on. So I wanted to see if I could eventually come around, overcome, the bezel that's on these things, and really work and figure out a way how to play decently. And I did. It's one of those things, like, every once in a while we have to relearn how to use a console controller if we haven't played consoles in a while, or a mouse and keyboard can be a really wacky thing for someone who's only played consoles to do. Same thing with the mobile platform. So overall, the controls feel natural. Like you almost really just get used to them within 5 minutes, and then after about 30 to 60 minutes, you're like in there. You're just going. You're able to pull off your combos, and you're able to execute what you need to do to make sure you're being, I won't say the most efficient, but you're making the best use of your skills, and etc. etc. And I will point out, at least from my point of view, since I was at BlizzCon 2018 when the game was announced and the demo was there, that the movement skill in particular, I noticed that my lingering thought of the demo was, it's really good, I like the experience, but I kept on losing control of my character, or more to the point, it wasn't like, we think, I say lose control and people sound like, oh, your character just went off in wild directions, when it was actually quite the opposite. My character would just stop moving, and it was because my thumb would move off the control pad area. When you were seeing people play the game, you saw that big grayed out circle, then you saw a smaller one representing their thumb as it was moving around the control pad. So they had to do some iteration between 2018 and now, because I noticed that it was actually really difficult. I don't think I ever lost control of my character. Placing my thumb in different areas, like in the beginning of a play session when I was really good, towards the end of a play session where my hands was maybe getting a little bit tired, and I was moving my thumb a little bit up or a little bit down. The control pad area for the movement worked really well. I didn't experience any issues with it. I never really experienced I was losing control of my character, or even for the skill selection and the skill movement side. And that kind of works into the next 2 points of I never really experienced any kind of hand pain. Granted, I played my play sessions were about 2 hours, and they were that long because that's how long I played on my phone, not being charged in from 100% till it screamed at me at the 20% battery life mark. And that's about how much I was getting per 80% battery. I was getting anywhere between 2 to 2.5 hours, which I think is very good. And I think that's a good breaking point. And play for an hour or two, let your phone charge all the way back up, and you just go again when it hits there, give your hands a rest. So again, really wasn't too much hand pain once you kind of got in the motion. It could be a little awkward playing with it charged in, because the charging cable is going through your fingers and it's actually preventing you from getting probably in a better position with your right hand, if that's where the charging cable is coming out of. Conversely, your movement hand, if the charging cable is coming out of your left hand. But other than that, I felt I was able to play as much as I wanted to, and when I had to put it down for a charge, I felt fine. I felt like I did enough, more than enough in the game to warrant putting it down, letting it charge, and going from there. A lot of people, and myself, noticed that depending on the charger you were using, you were basically neutral charging, or you were able to charge a little bit more than the game was using. So that's something to be wary about. At least right now, they could make improvements, optimization, of course. But beware that if you put your phone in at 10% and you put the power cable in, you may only be at around 10, 11, 12, 13, 14% by the time you're done play session. So be wary. Try to get a higher amperage charging block versus going with your standard, 1 amp charging block. Go for like a 2.1 or something like that. In those similar veins, because these are things that we've never really had to take into consideration before because it's a mobile platform, playing on 4G LTE versus Wi-Fi, I actually was able to do more tests, especially on the Wi-Fi, because of other things that were related. But between 4G LTE and Wi-Fi, the amount of MS I experienced was about the same. My average MS was anywhere between 150 and say 225 for a bulk of the testing, and that's how much I hit when I was playing on 4G LTE or my home Wi-Fi network. And that was more than acceptable. Yeah, you had the little red icon beeping at you saying like high latency, but that's because they try to put a really good quality, a really low level on it, because they want everyone to have the best experience. But I was able to play, I was able to move, again, not losing control of my character, not really worrying about my placement of my spells, skills, etc. All worked out in the end. And in fact, there was one thing that having this technical alpha made me wonder about was, is my home network actually part of the problem? So my wife and I, we got a router that we own, that instead of our ISP owns and we rent from, and we got a better Wi-Fi router independent of it, and we redid our home network on the second to last day of alpha, and I noticed that the MS in game dropped easily 50 to 60, just due to that fact alone. So that 150 to 220, 225 range dropped to like easily 130 to like 170 backs. And there was a noticeable difference, not a big difference, but a noticeable difference within the game. So that may be something for you to consider for your home networks. Is my ISP router router, Wi-Fi router, modem combo, is that a problem? So that's, again, something you probably wouldn't think about, or wouldn't contribute to a possible issue with your game, especially considering it's Wi-Fi. But again, something to take into consideration. Now, the last part is like, how many crashes did I experience? How many disconnects, hard lags did I experience over the just over 2 weeks? I think I recorded 5 hard crashes. I guess the equivalent of crash to desktop, basically crash to home screen on the phone, and I think I had anywhere between 5 and 7 really hard lag moments where like the game seemed like it froze for at least 5 seconds or longer. After each crash, I knew the game crashed. It froze, couldn't do anything, couldn't move your character. So, just waited for it to crash out, just send in the crash reports, boot right back into the game, was where I was perfectly, get up and go. So not a real big deal. And again, this is alpha, so the things that they're working through may resolve a lot of these issues. The hard lag moments is like when I noticed that moms weren't moving, I could move my character maybe a little bit, or things were just acting really slowly. Again, after about anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds for all those lag spikes, everything will kind of like, that typical fast forward motion, go through, your character would be all of a sudden where it is. If you died, you died. If you didn't, you would just be able to pick up, and then you'd be able to go through. It wasn't too big of a deal. Again, just like the crash to home screen, hopefully most of the reasons for those crashes will have been worked out. But other than that, I already mentioned the battery life, and how I mentioned that you may want to view your phone case and potentially see if there's something out there better, especially if you're having problems with the lower skill buttons or that top menu button, because the bezel from your case may get in the way. But overall, for these topics, the UI, the play, and the controls, everything was really nailed down. Everything was easily a 9.5 out of 10. I mean, it's not trying to blow smoke up anyone's ass. It's like the old adages for Blizzard games. It's most of Blizzard's alphas are like other game companies' betas. Blizzard's betas are typically like other game companies' releases. So Blizzard's releases are generally much better than any other company's releases, because there's that extra level of quality control, extra level of spit shine, polish, whatever we want to call it. In most cases, Blizzard's not perfect, but in this case, going 2+ years from when the game was announced till now, just for the technical alpha, it really shows. And I think that's something that really needs to be stressed. It's like the game, it's like all of us in the Diablo community, all the influencers, we got into the game and like, we're dying. It's like, we just want to get back into the game. We just want to do it because to us, it's a finished game. We just want to go in, we want to play. We just want to do it. So, without getting too redundant in my own commentary for this video, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thank you for watching. You can see more of this, again, multi-port series on Diablo Immortal. Check out alpha feedback at blizzpro.com. And I will eventually put everything on my own personal website at Dredscythe.com. Other than that, have a good night, and see you on the next video.